Welcome to our discussion on corporate formation. Before a company can grow and succeed, it's essential to have a solid foundation in place. This means understanding the basic principles and legal frameworks that govern how corporations are created and structured. In this session, we'll explore the key aspects of corporate law, which serve as the foundation for building a strong and compliant business. By mastering these fundamentals, you'll be well prepared to support growth and navigate the complexities of corporate governance. A corporation is essentially a legal entity that is established according to state law. What's important to understand is that it exists independently from its owners. This means that it has its own rights, its own responsibilities, and it can be held liable separately from the individuals who own it. This concept of independent existence under the law is what really sets corporations apart from other types of business arrangements. It allows the corporation to enter into contracts, own property, and be sued, all in its own name. This separation is fundamental to how corporations operate and protects the personal assets of the owners to a significant extent. Forming a corporation offers several important advantages that make it a compelling choice for many business owners. First, there's liability protection. This means that as a shareholder, your personal assets are generally protected from business debts and legal actions against the company. Next, we have tax advantages. Corporations often have access to favorable tax treatments and deductions that aren't available to sole proprietorships or partnerships. Credibility is another key benefit. Being incorporated often enhances your business's reputation with customers, suppliers, and potential investors, showing that you are serious and stable. Additionally, corporations benefit from perpetual existence, which means the business can continue operating independently of changes in ownership or management. This structure creates durability and stability for long-term success. Understanding these benefits helps clarify why many entrepreneurs choose to form a corporation. Now let's talk about the different types of business entities and what makes each one unique. First, we have the sole proprietorship. This is the simplest form, where there's just one owner and no legal distinction between the business and the individual. This means the owner is personally responsible for all business debts and liabilities. Next up is the partnership, which involves two or more owners. In this structure, profits and obligations are shared among the partners, so it's important that everyone involved is clear on their roles and responsibilities. Moving on, the LLC, or limited liability company, provides liability protection to its owners, similar to a corporation. However, it offers more flexibility in how the business is taxed, making it a popular choice for many entrepreneurs. Finally, we have the corporation. This is a separate legal entity from its owners, offering strong structural benefits that make it easier to raise capital and grow the business. It comes with more regulations, but that structure can be a big advantage for expansion. Each of these forms has its own benefits and trade-offs, so choosing the right one depends on your specific needs and goals. Understanding these differences is key to making the best decision for your business. Let's take a closer look at the differences between C corporations and S corporations, focusing on taxation, ownership, and reporting. Starting with C corporations, they face separate corporate taxation, meaning the company itself pays taxes on its earnings. Then, shareholders also pay taxes on any dividends they receive. When it comes to ownership, C corporations have no restrictions. There can be unlimited owners, including foreign and institutional investors. For reporting, the corporation files its own tax return, distinct from its shareholders. On the other hand, S corporations benefit from pass-through taxation. This means that the company's income flows directly to the shareholders, and taxes are paid at their individual rates, avoiding the double taxation situation seen in C corporations. However, ownership in S corporations is more limited. There's a cap on the number of shareholders, and specific eligibility requirements must be met. Reporting for an S corporation involves filing an informational return, but the income is reported by the individual shareholders on their tax returns. Understanding these distinctions is crucial because the tax treatment significantly shapes the business structure and how income is ultimately taxed. This will guide decisions about which corporate form might be best for a particular situation. Here we see the corporate structure broken down into three main layers. At the top, we have the shareholders, who are the owners of the company. They hold the ultimate authority since they invest capital and expect returns. Moving down to the middle layer, the board of directors represents the shareholders' interests. Their will is critical because they provide oversight and set strategic direction for the company. Finally, at the bottom layer, we have the officers and management team. These are the people responsible for the day-to-day execution of the company's plans and operations. So, to summarize, shareholders focus on ownership, the board ensures governance and oversight, and management handles execution. This layered approach helps maintain a balance between control, supervision, and operational efficiency within the organization. On this slide, we focus on the role of owners in a corporation, commonly known as shareholders. Shareholders primarily have economic rights, which include electing directors who oversee the company's broad strategies and voting on significant corporate actions. They also benefit financially by receiving dividends when these are declared and by sharing in the residual value if the company is liquidated. However, it's important to understand that owning shares does not grant daily management control. Shareholders must respect corporate formalities and recognize that management authority lies with the board of directors and company executives. So, while shareholders hold economic power, their influence on everyday operations is limited. This distinction is crucial for understanding corporate governance and how companies are run. The board of directors plays a crucial role in guiding the corporation, but they don't get involved in daily operations. Instead, their focus is on making decisive, high-level decisions that shape the company's future. One of their core responsibilities is setting the overall strategy and major corporate policies that steer the organization. They also have an important oversight function. This means they appoint top management and continually monitor the company's performance to ensure everything aligns with their goals. Acting as stewards of the company, board members have a fiduciary duty. They must act with care, loyalty, and good faith, always prioritizing the best interests of the corporation. The board's authority officially begins after the corporation is formed, at which point they take on a governance role over operations, exercising judgment on behalf of the company. In essence, the board protects the company's long-term health by providing strong leadership and accountability from above. On this slide, we're focusing on the key officers and management roles that drive the company. At the top, we have the Chief Executive Officer, or CEO. The CEO is responsible for setting the overall strategy of the company, providing leadership, and ultimately answers to the board of directors. Essentially, the CEO steers the company towards its long-term goals. Next is the Chief Financial Officer, or CFO, who handles financial stewardship. The CFO oversees all things related to capital management, financial reporting, budgeting, and ensuring strong financial controls are in place. This role is crucial for maintaining the company's financial health and transparency. Finally, the Chief Operating Officer, or COO, is in charge of operational execution. This means running the day-to-day operations and making sure that the CEO's strategy is effectively put into action. The COO bridges the gap between planning and doing, ensuring smooth daily functioning. Together, these three officers play distinct but complementary roles in managing the company's strategy, finances, and operations to keep the business moving forward. Starting a corporation involves 6 essential steps, each one building the legal foundation for the business. First, you need to choose a unique name that complies with your state's naming rules. This ensures your corporation can be easily identified and distinguished from others. Next, you file the Articles of Incorporation, which are the official documents submitted to the state to legally form the corporation. After that, creating the bylaws is crucial. They set the internal rules for how the corporation will be governed and how decisions will be made. Then, the shareholders elect a board of directors, who will oversee the corporation's activities and ensure it operates properly. The 5th step is issuing shares, which allocates ownership interests to the initial shareholders and establishes who controls the corporation. Finally, holding the first meetings is important for documenting initial actions and adopting key resolutions that help the corporation operate smoothly, right from the start. Together, these 6 steps form the structured sequence that creates a legally recognized corporation. When deciding where to incorporate, it's important to recognize that the best choice depends more on your actual business needs than on prestige alone. Delaware is a popular choice primarily because of its predictable and investor-friendly corporate laws, which have been thoroughly tested in court. This legal environment offers significant advantages, especially for companies looking for stability and clarity in governance. However, incorporating in Delaware comes with additional costs. If you operate your business outside of Delaware, you'll encounter franchise fees and foreign registration requirements, which can increase your expenses. On the privacy front, Delaware provides more discretion for owners in public filings, allowing for greater confidentiality compared to some other states. That said, small local businesses might find it more practical to incorporate in their home state. Staying local can reduce complexity and cost, since you avoid the extra layers of compliance and fees that come with operating as a foreign entity. Ultimately, choosing the right jurisdiction involves balancing cost, control, and compliance with what makes the most sense for your particular situation. Understanding these factors helps you develop an incorporation strategy that fits your operational reality rather than just following trends, which specify how much stock the company is allowed to issue, setting the framework for ownership. Directors are also included, referring to the initial board members who will oversee the corporation's activities, if their inclusion is required at the time of formation. Finally, the incorporator is the individual responsible for filing these formation documents, officially kickstarting the corporation's existence. Together, these components form the foundation for creating a legally recognized company. Bylaws serve as the corporation's internal rulebook, guiding how decisions are made and establishing who holds authority within the company. They ensure the organization operates with consistency, accountability, and order. One key aspect they cover is meetings. Bylaws specify when meetings take place, how notice is given, and what counts as a quorum to make decisions valid. They also define the structure and duties of the board of directors, including board size, elections, terms, handling vacancies, and the extent of board authority. Another important section addresses officers, their roles, how they're appointed, their responsibilities, and who can legally act on behalf of the corporation. When it comes to shares, bylaws outline the procedures for issuing stock, any restrictions on transferring shares, and the rules for maintaining shareholder records. Altogether, these internal rules serve not only to organize the corporation internally, but also to uphold discipline externally. When we talk about liability protection, the key idea is that a corporation acts as a shield between the business and its owners. Because the corporation is a legally separate entity, shareholders typically aren't personally responsible for business debts or claims. This means that if the business faces financial trouble or legal issues, the owner's personal assets are usually safe. Of course, this protection applies as long as shareholders don't personally guarantee obligations or ignore important corporate formalities. In essence, the corporation provides a form of risk management called limited liability, helping to keep business risks isolated from personal risk. This separation is one of the main reasons why forming a corporation can be so advantageous. When considering tax implications in corporate formation, it's important to understand the differences between C corporations and S corporations. Starting with C corporations, the company itself pays corporate income tax on its earnings. However, when those earnings are distributed as dividends, shareholders may face taxes again on that income, leading to what we call double taxation. On the positive side, C corporations often allow for more deductible fringe benefits, which can be advantageous for employee compensation. On the other hand, S corporations operate differently. Their profits and losses pass directly through to the owner's personal tax returns. This usually helps avoid the double taxation issue that C corps face. But there are eligibility restrictions you need to keep in mind, such as limits on the number and type of shareholders, as well as the classes of stock the company can issue. Ultimately, the choice between a C Corp and an S Corp depends heavily on the desired tax outcome. C corporations are generally better suited for businesses looking to reinvest earnings or attract outside capital, while S corporations appeal to those seeking simpler tax treatment and who meet the eligibility criteria. So, understanding how tax treatment shapes your entity choice is crucial for making the right decision. Formation is just the first step in protecting a corporation. To maintain that protection, the company must consistently meet its ongoing obligations. This includes filing annual reports, which keep the state informed about the corporation's current status. Paying state fees on time is crucial to avoid penalties or loss of good standing. Holding regular shareholder meetings ensures that important decisions are properly documented and legally valid. Accurate record keeping is essential for transparency and compliance with laws. Additionally, maintaining all necessary business licenses keeps the corporation authorized to operate. Finally, timely regulatory filings help the company meet legal requirements at both the state and federal levels. Overall, good standing depends on consistent attention to these ongoing responsibilities. One common pitfall is having incomplete bylaws. When internal rules are vague, it creates confusion about voting procedures, authority, and decision-making, especially during disputes. This can lead to unnecessary conflicts and slow down important processes. Another critical issue is poor record keeping. Missing minutes, resolutions, or stock records can seriously undermine your company's compliance with legal requirements and damage its credibility. Accurate, thorough records are essential for maintaining trust and protecting the business. Mixing personal and corporate funds is a major risk. When the line between owner and company finances gets blurred, it jeopardizes liability protection, putting personal assets in danger. Finally, ignoring state requirements can have severe consequences. Failing to submit necessary filings, pay fees, or file annual reports on time may result in penalties or even administrative dissolution of the company. Observing these formalities is crucial because they safeguard the business structure and its ongoing operation. Good governance is essential for protecting the corporation by ensuring that decisions are made in an orderly, visible, and accountable manner. One of the best practices is to hold regular meetings. This means scheduling board and shareholder meetings consistently to review strategy, approve major actions, and keep everyone aligned. Another key point is clear documentation. It's important to record minutes, resolutions, and key policies so the company can demonstrate exactly how decisions were reached. Transparent communication is equally vital. Keeping directors, officers, and shareholders informed with timely and consistent reports helps maintain trust and clarity. Lastly, conflict disclosure is crucial. Leaders should disclose any personal interests early on, and it's important to document how these conflicts are managed. Overall, having a strong governance structure builds trust within the organization and with external stakeholders. Let's talk about the critical role corporate counsel plays within a company. First, when it comes to entity structure, it's essential to choose the right legal framework from the very beginning. This decision impacts everything from liability to taxation, so getting it right early on sets the foundation for future success. Next is governance, which involves clearly defining authority, the board's processes, and decision-making rights. Proper governance ensures that the company operates smoothly with well-understood roles and responsibilities, preventing conflicts and enhancing accountability. Then there's compliance, keeping all filings, records, and legal obligations in proper order. Staying on top of these requirements is vital to avoid penalties and maintain good standing with regulatory bodies. All these elements come together under the umbrella of legal strategy and advisory. The key takeaway here is that effective counsel reduces risks before they turn into costly problems. In other words, proactive legal guidance helps protect the company, saving time, resources, and potential headaches down the road. When it comes to financing your corporation, there are three main methods to consider. First, equity financing involves selling ownership stakes to investors. This method doesn't require repayment, which is a big advantage, but it does mean that the founder's control is diluted, since others now have a say in the company. Next, there's debt financing. This means borrowing capital that must be repaid with interest. The key benefit here is that ownership remains intact. You don't give up control, but you do take on the responsibility of paying back the loan on schedule. Finally, retained earnings allow you to reinvest the company's profits back into the business. This approach doesn't add any new owners and helps maintain control, but growth tends to be slower since it relies solely on internally generated funds. Each of these paths involves trade-offs between control, cost, and the speed at which your business can grow. Understanding these differences is crucial when deciding how to finance your corporation. When we talk about stock and shares, we're really discussing how ownership in a corporation is divided and represented. Stock represents the overall ownership in a company, while shares are the individual units that break down that ownership into measurable parts. This division clearly defines who has economic rights, voting power, and priority within the company. Common stock is the most typical class of ownership. Holders usually have voting rights, giving them a say in company decisions, and they also have a residual claim on the company's profits after other obligations are met. Preferred stock, on the other hand, works differently. It often comes with priority when it comes to dividends and claims during liquidation, but generally, those shareholders have limited or no voting rights. Lastly, par value is an assigned nominal value to shares, as defined in the corporate charter. It's mostly symbolic and usually set very low, having little to do with the share's actual market value. So, ownership in a corporation is divided with precision, using these categories to clearly establish each shareholder's rights and priorities. When we talk about formalities, it's crucial to understand that keeping thorough minutes, resolutions, and records isn't just bureaucratic paperwork. It's what truly protects your liability shield. The key idea here is that your corporation needs to be treated as its own separate entity. When decisions are clearly documented, when business affairs are kept distinct from personal matters, you're preserving that limited liability, which is the foundation of corporate protection. Courts look closely at this, and poor record-keeping can easily blur the lines between the owner and the company, putting that protection at risk. So, meticulous governance and record-keeping aren't just administrative tasks. They're essential for maintaining your corporation's legal integrity. When a corporation is properly formed from the very beginning, it sets the stage for scalable growth. This means that the foundational legal and organizational structures are designed not just for stability, but to actively support expansion as the company evolves. During the growth phase, having a strong structure in place becomes critical because it enables the business to handle increased complexity, manage resources efficiently, and seize new opportunities without falling apart under pressure. Essentially, a well-built corporation is like a sturdy framework that allows the business to grow confidently and sustainably. As we wrap up, let's focus on the key takeaways from our discussion on corporate formation. First, it's important to remember that a corporation is its own separate legal entity, distinct from its owners. This separation creates the structure, but it's discipline in maintaining that structure that truly protects the corporation and its stakeholders. Second, forming a corporation requires precise steps, including proper filings and documentation. Skipping or mishandling any part of this process can lead to significant issues down the line. Third, the liability protection a corporation offers isn't automatic. It depends on strict, ongoing compliance with legal and regulatory requirements. Staying current is essential to maintain those protections. Fourth, good governance is the backbone of a successful corporation. This means having a well-functioning board of directors, appointed officers, and meticulous record-keeping practices. These elements ensure accountability and smooth operation. Finally, seeking professional guidance when forming a corporation can save you from costly errors and challenges later on. Experts help navigate the complexities and keep your corporation on the right track from the beginning. In summary, structure, compliance, and governance are fundamental to building and maintaining a strong, protected corporation. As we move forward on this journey, the next steps are crucial to setting a strong foundation. First, it's important to consult an attorney to ensure all legal aspects are covered properly. Next, filing the Articles of Incorporation officially establishes the organization. Following that, adopting bylaws will create the rules and guidelines needed for smooth operation. Then, issuing stock is key to defining ownership and investment. Finally, holding meetings will keep everyone aligned and accountable. Remember, formation comes first, and then discipline follows to maintain success. These steps will guide us toward building a solid and well-structured organization.